Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the recent price rise to Disney Plus. We'll also be talking about some more Premier Access titles coming this summer, and we'll be sharing our thoughts on the Mighty Ducks and the second episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But before we jump into any of that, just some housekeeping up front. If you haven't already done so, make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channel. We just hit 56,000 subscribers this week. You can also subscribe on the audio platforms like Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, etc. to keep up with the latest podcasts. And as well, you can find us over on Twitter and Facebook, and obviously you can join our Facebook group as well. We also have a Patreon and a YouTube channel membership program where you can help support the channel, where it helps keep everything going, help support what we're doing. And also, just want to do a big shout out to our Gold, Diamond, and Platinum members. So first off on the YouTube side, a big hello to David, Bina, Bad Dog Gamer, Joshua, Amit, Ben, Adam, Dawn, Martin, Jeremy, and Sarah. Well, over on the Patreons, just a big thank you to Andrew, Jacob, Khaled, Red Mars Man, Andrew, Chris, Cody, Darren, The Juice, Lester, Lauren, James, and What's on Netflix. And a huge big thank you to Sarah for being a platinum member, and all of your support really does make a huge amount of difference in keeping everything going. And we do have a weekly live chat as well, which will be going up tomorrow, where all YouTube channel members can also join in and ask questions, and so can Patrons. But yeah, so that's all of the housekeeping out the way.
Well, worth pointing out, I think next week there is not a patron chat.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, there will not be one next week because it's Easter Sunday, and I think that's probably a good day just to have a full day off. So yeah, there won't be a live stream next Sunday, but there will be a podcast on Saturday. And I'll kind of get back to normal times because our clocks changed tonight, so we're losing an hour of sleep. Right, let's do the bad news first, shall we? So let's start off with the Disney Plus price rise came into effect in the United States yesterday. Now it's only gone up $1. Now there's a lot of people that get really angry, and there's a lot of other people that go, it's $1. And it's a real kind of strange one with these price rises. So this has gone on in the US first. It's happened. They did announce this back in December, so it's not like it's a huge surprise. You know, they did forewarn everybody, and it's been that price for 18 months. I think most of us could tell Disney had priced Disney Plus relatively cheap in order to get you hooked. And the reason they said that this price has gone up is because they are investing so much more in Disney Plus original programming, and therefore the price warrants them having to put things up. I think it would have been happening anyway. Now, you can only look at what we've got coming up in the next few months to realize that the Disney Plus Originals lineup has drastically changed since this time last year. I mean, last year we had The Mandalorian, The Right Stuff, and The Secrets. Oh, so the Female President series. I'm completely just lost.
Diary
of Future President. Yeah, I was thinking Secrets of the Sofa President or something. Like that. No, that's not it.
We had High School Musical, the musical. So.
Yeah, well, I think we had like one or two episodes at the beginning. So generally, we only really had 3 drama series. Well, we've had 3 drama series already this year, so that's the big difference. There's going to be a lot more. There's multiple episodes dropping in throughout, and that's why there's going to be so much more coming. And I'm going to be honest, there's a kind of side thing for me of, having run a real business in the real world for like 20 plus years. Every year I would put my prices up, and it happens every year because rent goes up, wages go up, pensions go up, inflation goes up. It's just a standard thing that every business puts their price up. Just some of them are better at hiding it than others. That's why we have things like shrinkflation, where they don't put the price up, but they make everything smaller. That could have been the option. So as a business person, I tend to look at this and go, well, everything goes up in price, whether you like it, and that's my kind of general gist of it. Going, well, prices go up. That's standard. Netflix and that, everyone puts their prices up. And I think if Disney can do it every 18 months, 2 years, they'd probably be all right. I don't know if they're necessarily going to be going to annual. I know over here, Sky, you notoriously every April the price goes up. It's just kind of been the standard thing that happens. Also, just to state, internationally, the price of Disney Plus went up in February, and it went up about $2 a month, around £20 a year, because we got the addition of Star. So they valued that not only were we getting the $1 price rise that everybody else was getting, because you got to include that because that would have happened anyway. Then we've basically ended up paying £1 extra a month for Star, which I think is worth it. The only problem was, yes, this week was the first anniversary of Disney Plus launching in the UK and Europe. And so the annual subscriptions went through, and anyone that didn't have their auto renewal set up with the correct information, or had like the right date or whatever, or it expired or something like that, they then got bounced back saying it had been hadn't gone through and therefore would be cancelled. So when you log back in, it then charged the new price. And the problem was we'd all existing members had been given like 6 months grace of paying the old price. Now Disney have been aware of it. There were massive problems with the call centers, the help desk. I mean, there's people contacting me saying, why isn't it working? Like, I don't know. And to be honest, it wasn't until I suddenly go, why am I getting so many messages today? It was just like, and so yeah, we were apparently they are going to be sorting it all out. I mean, I know a lot of people have been complaining, they want a refund, or they don't want to pay the price, or they should be on it. Disney will sort it out. They will. There's no doubt about that. They will get this sorted. They've already said they'll honor it. You'll find out through email in the coming weeks. I've heard some people that are getting like a refund and a little bit more. Some people are getting a little bit extra for the inconvenience. So Disney will make things right. I've got no doubt about it. They generally do this thing, but the reminder that went out about the price renewal or the renewal, I think it got lost in a lot of people didn't say they got it, or they got it too long ago that they didn't realize. I think people maybe needed a reminder like this week. So if you are a Disney Plus subscriber in like Europe, also in Australia and Canada, just make sure if it's being renewed in the next few months, just check that your details are all up to date, because you don't want it happening. Hopefully they won't sort out. Ironically, if they had just put the price up on the 23rd and was like, well, everyone has to pay the new price, no one would have noticed. It would have just been how it would have happened. So, ironically, giving everyone that 6 months grace actually caused them more problems in the long run.
Probably, but then also they probably would have ended up in a situation where they didn't announce it. Somebody on Reddit or Twitter notices, oh, hey, I got charged an extra $1, and then it becomes a huge, like, oh, Disney pitchforks and like, you can't, with that many subscribers, somebody would have noticed and raised the stink. But at the same time, most people would not have. And in regards to like the email getting lost, I can totally understand that, because just from Disney Plus alone, I don't know, I probably get like 3 or 4 emails a week, and I barely look at any of them. I could see how your renewal is coming up. I would
They're very
click delete.
I know when I get the emails through them, you look at them and go, it's like, Falcon and the Winter Soldier's arrived. Well, yeah, I kind of knew that. I was like, or here's what's coming in April, but only like maybe like 1/5 of actually what's been announced is on it. It's a bit, Well,
I don't know if it's this way for you, but they'll be like, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is here on the Tuesday after I watched it the previous Friday. I'm like, okay, cool. Check my history. I've already watched it like 5 times.
Yeah, it just does seem a bit. I do think they could have done a lot better in getting at another, a much more clearer defined message, like basically in the headline, in the title saying, please check your payment system, something like that. But I do think, there's like two problems here. Obviously the price has gone up, which I know some people don't like, but there's also a lot of people just going, like, it's $1 a month. And then there's the whole, and I understand. I mean, there's a kind of thing of, if I went to pay like yesterday $59.99, and then today it rejected it, and then it said it was $79.99. £20 is a lot of money. And so hopefully this will get sorted out. But like I said, this will all get sorted out with Disney. And I kind of like I said, that kind of thing of they've trying to be honorable up front kind of ended up costing them more hassle, because I don't think it sounds very much like the automated system wasn't in place to kind of catch that. Basically, because once it'd been declined, you would no longer a member, so you automatically then like registered as a new member. It's just a pain.
And hopefully they learn from the mistake so that the next cycle of renewals, whatever they end up being, go much smoother.
What I would suggest is, if you haven't done it, I wouldn't bother trying to get hold of customer support for the next few days, maybe even another week. If you can, just maybe, I would say give it a little bit of time, because they've probably got so many people coming in. So just be aware of it. And as a former IT help desk person for like 5 years. I understand. I'm like, just and I'll also say as well, if you're nasty to them on live chat, don't expect much. That's as with everything. If you treat them like they might do something for you, but if you start going straight into swearing at them and aggressive, don't expect them. Nevertheless.
As another former tech support frontliner, when the phone call starts with swear words and yelling, my willingness to go the extra mile for you just disappears immediately. It is actually amazing how just being polite and being understanding to the tech support person, they might be willing to do things that they wouldn't do for other customers to get to make you right again.
It's not so much even that. I think it's just the fact if you start off on a bad foot with them, they can make the whole process so much more slower and unnecessary. But yeah, so that's the price rise. This week, Disney did release the first trailer for Big Shot, which is coming to Disney Plus on April the 16th, which stars John Stamos as a basketball coach, and he ends up doing something which ends up he has to then teach a basketball school at college for girls.
I think it was high school, actually.
Well, I'm going to be honest. As watching American TV, it's very difficult to see at what point all these 40-year-olds running around pretending to be in high school, with their chiseled jaws and stuff, how they're supposed to be.
I don't remember any of the girls having chiseled jaws, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, like we'll put on like these vampire ones, and we go, that guy looks about 35. He's not, he's 18.
Well, but he's actually a 275-year-old sparkle vampire. So
yeah, it's just so this trailer come out. So this will be, I think it's a 10-part series running pretty much then right through till mid-June. I saw it. I'm gonna. It was a little bit more. It's a bit more adult, a little bit more aimed at adults than I was expecting. I was expecting something a bit more in the lines of like the Mighty Ducks, but I think the tone's gone up in terms of it's very much, I would say, aimed at teenagers and above. It didn't feel childish to me, and which was kind of with Mighty Ducks. And obviously the kids involved are much different ages, but a little bit more drama. Kind of what I've been seeing really like with like Love Victor and stuff, really a different level. And I mean, I saw it and went, oh, okay, that doesn't look too bad. I was pleasantly surprised because I think I'd already like written off a bit of like, oh, it's a sports thing. Okay. Too many cliches, but I watched it and went, oh, okay, that doesn't look too bad. What about you?
So when going into the trailer, I was expecting something along the lines of like A League of Their Own, where you've got the girls being, if not the best, at least enjoying what they're doing and having fun. And then you've got this guy who's punished to deal with girls of all the terrible possible things that could be happening. And then they learn to like each other over the first series. But then about halfway through the trailer, I'm like, actually, he seems to be okay with this. Like he's a little angry about, getting cast out of whatever, but he doesn't seem to mind. And it was actually the girls. I was kind of like, you're all kind of being brats. Why don't you ease up a little bit? So it was not the dynamic I was expecting, and I think that
I don't think
made
that
me
would work now.
more interested.
I don't know if that would work now. I think that would be. Yeah.
I mean, A League of Their Own. It was also played strictly for laughs. It was not a serious take on it, and it was. You're not supposed to go, oh yeah, Tom Hanks is totally right. These girls should not be playing baseball at all. No, they're supposed to come together and realize, oh yeah, they can play baseball just fine. And this one's going the opposite direction. Not that they should not be playing basketball, but that they need to be a little more open to working with this guy.
Yeah, so it looks fun. I'm definitely much more interested in it than I thought I was going to be. Again, I mean, April coming up, we've got Mighty Ducks and Big Shot. I have said in the past, I kind of wish they'd spread those two ones out so they weren't arriving for most of the, I mean, right through May and June, they're all going to be arriving around the same time. So I would have liked a little bit of a break, but it seems a very different tone to it. And again, as I generally consider not much into my sports, I was like, okay, I see where they're going with this, and it could be fun. So let us know in the comments what you thought of the Big Shot trailer. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Now let's move into the big news. So this past week, Disney announced a new reshuffling of their release schedule for the upcoming years ahead. So first off, they have delayed Black Widow. That will now be coming out on July the 9th. So they've pushed it back into Shang-Chi's slot. That one's then pushed back into September, early September. It hasn't been there like a ricochet going right the way through all of them. And Eternals is still set to come out when it was supposed to. They've just kind of pushed Shang-Chi back. And kind of like, I can see where they're going with this one. There's a lot of discussion of like whether or not they should move it. It is also now officially confirmed to be coming to Disney Plus Premier Access. So now that date is set. There is no more moving, no more delays. They've set it. They've moved it for the fourth time. They've got Disney Plus Premier Access now, so we know it's coming. I don't think they could have gone much later because of how much it might impact Hawkeye. I think this was a smart idea personally for here in the UK. Cinemas wouldn't have been open for when Black Widow opened, and right across Europe, that's pretty much out. There's also a massive problem still in Latin America. So there are massive continents that are still in early May kind of restricted. So I think that helped like them decide that they were going to have to do something. Obviously in America as well, the vaccine program and stuff is mean things are lightening up. I know like New York and Los Angeles have opened up some of their cinemas, but they are still all at reduced capacity. So therefore, essentially in order to do a sellout cinema, they would have to do 4 sellout cinemas to make the same amount of money they would do in the one if it's only running at like 25% capacity. So I see why they've moved it. There is obviously the box office isn't great right now. The numbers aren't coming in thing, but Disney has committed to it. So that was the first one. But what did you think on the Black Widow move?
I'm glad that we have a firm date, and for me at least, it's far enough back now that I feel confident that I'll have the vaccine by then, both doses plus the 3-week layover period after the second one, and I'll feel confident enough to be like, yeah, I'll go see it in the theater this time.
Well, I was in that kind of zone of obviously the cinemas weren't going to be open, so that was a problem for me. But I've had the first one, and by May I would have had the second one. So therefore, that does change maybe how I would look at it. But I'm going to be honest. If I have the choice between the two, I will go for Premier Access because I can watch it multiple times. Because I like, if I watch it twice, that gets my money's worth. My dad's going to watch it on my account, so therefore there's an instantly there's not necessarily a saving, but I know that that's a movie that they can enjoy. So I'm probably would be leaning more in for that one because and I might even might be something like I can say to my wife, do you want to watch it? She wouldn't go to cinema to see it, there's no chance, but she might be more inclined to watch it at home. But yeah, so that one there's shifted. I think it's good that they've done it, and we know now, and no more messing about. And I think they've got to be a little bit more better at this. They've got to be a bit more open about that one. Also, Cruella is sticking to its May 28th date, but that will also be available on Disney Plus Premier Access. So they've definitely. I mean, I kind of had a feeling that was happening because when they released this trailer a couple of weeks ago, there was no mention of cinemas only, which was always a bad sign, and also the fact that no Marvel Black Widow stuff was starting to shift, so that was a bit of a giveaway that Black Widow was going to move. But I'm glad with Cruella that they have to do this. They've either got to release the movie or not, and I don't think we're in a position right now where they can just go cinema only. I think offering the option is the best way to keep everybody happy. If you don't like to pay $29.99, go to cinema. That's your choice.
Yeah, I think moving forward, we'll continue to see this model, and I'm fine with that. I think for a lot of families, the $30 option will be the better option, but sometimes you also just want to let's get out of the house. Let's go and do something and have the kids zonked out for an hour and a half or whatever watching the movie. And
I mean, there's a whole other conversation we're going to have after this about cinemas and stuff in general. But also Luca, the Pixar movie, is now coming exclusively to Disney Plus in the middle of June. That is now no longer going to cinemas. I kind of, again, had a feeling that might happen because of the trailer that they released. Kind of makes sense as doing the Soul route. I think it will find a home. The merchandise sales, I don't think will get affected as much with it going to Disney Plus as it is. Maybe the budget, I don't know. Maybe because it's not a franchise, they don't really want to risk it. So that one is the big one that's moved. It's the only one really that from this year so far. I mean, whether or not we see any more of this happening, but it's nice to have a nice big new Pixar movie heading our way to Disney Plus through. What did you think of that one?
Yeah, obviously I'm happy. I think they could have maybe gone with Premier Access if they'd gone with a lower price point for it. I don't think many people would drop 30 for it, but They probably want to keep the premiere access at a static price for the moment. That said, I think we will see a couple other movies move over strictly to the Disney Plus model, but we're going to be talking the smaller movies, things more along the lines of like the One and Only Ivan or Artemis Fowl or something, stuff that wasn't really going to make the box office bank anyway.
Right, so now let's go through. I'm going to go through the 2021 movies that they got set up. So we've got Cruella, Black Widow. They've got Searchlight, the Night House coming out on the 16th of July. That will probably stay as it is. They might do dual release of Hulu, but the Searchlight movies, they don't need to make as much money to make it profitable. Also internationally, I mean, we're getting Nomadland the end of April because obviously cinemas aren't opening. So internationally, the Night House probably more likely just to carry on with the traditional way because they're just cheaper. The Jungle Cruise will be arriving on the 30th of July. I think that will go Premier Access. I'm pretty sure that's gonna, because it's only like 3 weeks after Black Widow. What about you?
Yeah, that'll almost certainly be a Premier Access. If for whatever reason it does not go Premier Access, I would consider it as a signal that they will be dropping Premier Access as an option and everything will go strictly to theater. But I don't see that happening.
My theory with the Premier Access is I think it's going to exist probably right through till like Thanksgiving at least. They're doing it almost like a movie by movie basis, but there's a lot of worriedness about the autumn, the fall. What's going to happen? Is there going to be any variants? They're still going to, and also just the idea of if they make enough money with them, they might start. Because Disney hasn't done a deal with anybody yet, but we'll talk about that in a bit later. Then the Beatles to Get Back is coming back on the 27th of August. There might be a contract where that has to go to cinemas because it's the Beatles. That just seemed to me like a perfect shift to Disney Plus, but they might be willing to, because it's a documentary. It's probably just costs a lot to get the Beatles stuff, but it's not like it's a massively expensive movie to make.
No, but it would also be popular because it's the Beatles, and like you said, there might be contract issues where it's due to go on another platform, or there's a must go to theaters first clause, something like that.
I also think as well, I do feel that might be a movie that might appeal to a much older audience, and they're much more likely to be vaccinated. I don't know who they. Obviously they're big, but I don't know if this the standard more audience that most of these Disney movies are going to. It's a very different audience for that one.
And that's also true. I'm sure some people will drag their kids along, but for the most part, the Beatles will be either for hardcore music enthusiasts or people who maybe grew up when the Beatles were still around or right after.
Yeah, so that's that one there. Moving on from there, we've got Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings coming on the 3rd of September. I have to keep looking because the numbers are back to front. And then I think that will go Premier Access because September is generally not a great time for box office. Searchlight is the Eyes of Tammy Faye will be coming out on the 24th of September, limited. I think, again, the Searchlight ones are easy to do. The Last Duel lands on the 15th of October. Ron's Gone Wrong, which is an animated movie, will be hitting on the 22nd of October. If things get worse, I could see that one shifting. They've already moved it back once. It's an animated movie. They could, in theory, shift it, but again, it depends on the 20th Century deal with what they're doing there. I forgot the Free Guy is coming on the 13th of August. I'm looking forward to that one. Ryan Reynolds in video games, can't go wrong with that one.
He's carved out a nice little niche for himself as the funny action hero.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I've liked him ever since Two Guys and a Pizza Place or something. So I'm a long time fan. Antlers got pushed back to the 29th of October. That's like a Halloween movie, so that'll be perfect timing for cinemas. Eternal is dropping on the 5th of November. Enchanto dropping on the 24th for Thanksgiving. Nightmare Alley, Searchlight movie on the 3rd of December. West Side Story on the 10th of December. And The King's Man is dropping on the 22nd of December. So that is pretty much the lineup. There's lots of movies coming in there. Got to remember internationally, although Searchlight and 20th Century ones can all head over to Disney Plus after 3 months. I think that's what's going to start happening. So that it's quite a lineup when you look at that there, and like for me, as obviously in the UK, like they're all Disney Plus movies, and it does make it. Well, obviously in the US is a bit more carved out. The only good thing is, at least with Disney, is they have managed to circumnavigate an entire year of the HBO contracts, kind of by not releasing any movies. It kind of gets them out of that problem a bit.
I'm sure that is the core reason that COVID happened. It was so Disney could have a year without HBO Max. I know there are some people who unironically think that COVID was manufactured by some giant corporation or whatever. But
well, it was either aliens, androids, or wizards. That's one of the ones it's going to be.
One of the big three.
One of the big three. And then they've also got announced all of 2022 and onwards. There's just loads of untitled ones. I'm not going to go through and read all of them because we'll be there all week. Because they're going right through to 2028. There's a lot there. So this past week in the UK and in the US, was it Cinemark has done a big deal with Warner Brothers so that they all get like a 45-day exclusivity window in the United States before they head off to other digital platforms. So this whole thing with HBO Max, of everyone using the HBO Max model against Disney Premier Access, it's only temporary, folks. It's not a long-term thing. This isn't happening long-term. From next year, that will be going back to their own system. This kind of ties in to what's happening as a whole with all the studios kind of coming up with new contracts with cinemas. And those windows have gone from 3 months, you get them for 6 weeks. Some of them are even less than that. They've drastically, but Disney have not gone into any negotiations. They still seem like they're very much like, no, we're just holding out a little bit longer. There was a bit of a backlash from obviously the cinema chains with Black Widow because they lost essentially the early May movie. But I think there was maybe that hope they're going, well, at least they are still releasing it in cinemas. They're giving us the option. But Disney are like, well, if you don't like it, don't. Disney are in that situation. They're so big in the box office that they can be a bit bully boy with cinemas. Some people defend cinemas. Some people defend the studios. For me personally, there's somewhere in between. You don't want, Disney have got competition, so the other cinemas have to do stuff. But at the same time, cinemas sometimes were coming across a little bit like they wanted everything just to go back to 10 years ago. And I don't think that was ever going to be possible.
Yeah, no, despite what people think, I'm not just going to blindly take Disney's side on this. I think there does need to be a middle ground between the two. Both Disney and the chains need to accept that there is a different normal coming out of this, and things will be different and consumers will have different expectations. It's not even, Disney wants one thing and the cinemas want another thing. It's that consumers want one thing, and both sides need to meet somewhere that consumers are going to be happy with.
Personally, for me, I would be more than happy if Disney just turned around from here on out and was like, every movie comes on Premier Access on day one. Just be like, that's the new system. That's what we're going to do. They're at cinemas and they're at home at a Premier rate. Or you turn around and go, right, if they then turn around and say, okay, well, all movies then arrive on like Disney Plus 3 months after release of cinemas, I'll accept, I'm quite happy either way, but I want to, in some ways it's really difficult because we've got like no measuring stick. Before COVID, we kind of had an idea of, well, there was a 6 to 9 month window between everything arriving on Disney Plus. That's all been shot to bits. So there's no way I can say to you right now, normally, when would, let's say, Jungle Cruise arrive on Disney Plus, because at the moment we've got no measuring stick because everything's just gone all out the window. There is no more. I mean, I'd like them to go to 3 months. I think we're going to start seeing that because Disney Plus is being viewed now as home video rather than like a competitor to Blu-rays and stuff have all gone. And I think they know that it's where it's all shifted to. And so now they're almost releasing them on Blu-ray after they've gone to Disney Plus because they realize now that's a niche market rather than the main market. So I think there has been a shift with that.
Yeah, and like I said, it's mostly driven by the consumers and what consumers want and what consumers expect. And I mean, COVID has been an accelerant in changing what we expect.
Yeah, I mean, everything is just speeded up. So I think we're still in for a long summer of delays, and I think we're getting to a point where they can't keep delaying much more because they're stacking up. Because remember, they're still filming. They're filming all the movies. Probably going to take a little bit longer to make, but they just wrapped Spider-Man 3 yesterday, Tom Holland put up a picture of him with his six-pack, that he's finished his filming. So this is where things are happening. Things are still moving along, and the stockpile of movies, they can't keep pushing things back. I mean, Black Widow, I think, was a situation where they knew they were going to have to push it at some point. They've tried their best. It might pull. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how many people it pulls in, but then they might also be going, "Oh, Premier Access did all right." You know, apparently Raya and the Last Dragon didn't pull in as many people as Mulan did. But there was this whole thing as well, same thing with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. People go, "Oh, the stats aren't. There's not as many people downloading the app as it's like, well, that's not a fair comparison because there's more subscribers than there were 6 months ago. How many of those subscribers that got it from Mulan stayed, so they wouldn't get counted for downloading it again?" I was a bit like, I don't know if we can count that really as a stat as a measuring stick.
The problem is that we don't have other stats. You know, Disney's got the stats. HBO's got the stats. All of them have them, but we have nothing. So we have to use whatever we can find to be like, oh, app downloads or number of tweets about whatever came out. It's like, this is ridiculous. I mean, they're not even remotely useful numbers, but they're what we have. Well,
Disney did state this earlier this week that The Falcon and the Winter Soldier was the most watched premiere on Disney Plus, which is like, I would hope it would be, because it's every month you should have more subscribers than you had before. So therefore, the potential is, I do think like The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is much more traditional MCU, but also I can already feel like there's a little bit of a difference in how people are talking about it compared to WandaVision, but in some ways it's a little bit easier for people to watch. Even my mum and dad said that they watched the first episode, which was like, oh, okay, they watched it, and then I kind of had to give them a list of movies to watch to kind of make it a bit more sense. But then that was, that thing like that. So it does, I'm not surprised by that, but yeah, we don't really have any stats. I don't think they will do. All I can say is if Raya did that badly, they wouldn't be doing it with Black Widow.
Yeah, and I would assume they had the expectation that Raya would not do as well as Mulan. Mulan is an established name. People were really looking forward to that movie. A lot of people didn't know what Raya was. I mean, it's a new IP, and it's much more of a risk to go, all right, if I buy this, will we watch it enough times to make it worth the $30? Maybe less so if you've got a bunch of kids running around, but for a lot of us, it's like, it's an unknown quantity. Sure, the trailers look good, but it's a lot of money up front.
Yeah, and I know that Raya is going to have a massive upsurgence in popularity this summer. Once it hits on June, I think we're going to see a lot more people excited about Raya, as a lot more people watch it, and it goes to that next level. And I think it would do like a bit like Moana, where it will start picking up pace. Because Mulan did as well. Mulan picked up, a lot of people were watching it when it dropped onto the main Disney Plus. So hopefully that will be how it is. But yeah, so that's all that. Anything else you want to add to cinemas or stuff at the minute?
I think that for me, Black Widow will be the test for me personally. Yeah. If I even want to go back to cinemas, because I might go and watch Black Widow at the cinema and be like, oh yeah, I hate this experience. But we'll find out.
I mean, as well as, if you've got to go with your mask on, that could be a massive impact. Of whether or not that could have a big impact. I'm still going to be. I think a lot of us are going to be jittery about sitting in a massive room full of people.
I'm not even really jittery about like the virus part of that. Just like I don't know if I'm ready to go back into crowds of people. Which is funny because I'm still planning like a trip to Tokyo now in 2022. It's like, oh yeah, it's one of the most crowded cities on the planet, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, you should be fine. I think it's like, yesterday I was in the supermarket and I'm going, there's a lot of people in this aisle. Like, we've all got masks on, but it's still just like psychology. We've spent a year trying to stay away from people, and it's like, there's a lot of people in here.
Yeah, that happened to me. I don't remember what the store was. I went in to a store and I was looking around and like, you know what? I don't need to be here right now. There's way too many people right now.
Yeah.
And it probably wouldn't even have been considered crowded 2 years ago. It would have been busy but not crowded, and I was like, I'm not feeling this. I'm out.
No, like this is it. This is consumer confidence, and this is what they're worried about. And while all of like experts are saying, "Oh, there's going to be this big bumper as everyone goes out," and all the rest of it, it's like, not everyone's fed up of staying at home. Yeah, but that's not going to last indefinitely. They will get to a point where people will just start sliding back in to their habits again. The novelty of going out will soon, not necessarily wear off, but that will kind of come back in to how we would think about it before, where you go, can you believe it? To begin with, there's be a whole excitement about trying to get out and do stuff, but there is going to be consumer confidence that they're going to have to get in. Right, let's now move over to some reviews. Let's first talk about the Mighty Ducks. So the first episode dropped on Friday. Now I'm going to say I have watched the first 3 episodes, so I will try to. I say spoiler free. It's a little bit trickier going. I don't really know if there was actually anything I could. You probably could tell where it's all going anyway. But I will try to remember that I'm a few more episodes ahead of everyone. But I watched those 3 episodes. I enjoyed the series a lot more than I was expecting. A little bit more kiddie than I was expecting as well. It was. My wife said to me, because she watched the first episode with me. I said, "Do you want to carry on?" And she's like, "Nah, it's too kiddie." So that I carry, and then that's I do make her watch all of the Disney Plus originals and then see what her reaction is. So sometimes it's nice having somebody else to kind of go, yeah, it's like, yeah. Some of them I just go, I know she's not going to watch, so we don't watch. But I did think Mighty Ducks might have a chance that she might like it.
Well, I think it's good to have the perspective of somebody who's not fully immersed in Disney, which is, I mean, she gets it because you're in it. So, but not having the person who's like, I'll watch it just because it's on Disney Plus. No. I think the only thing about it that struck me was that it's moving a little faster than I expected it to. I thought it would take them a couple of episodes to get the team formed up, but I'm sure that they're going to add more members, but
I'll be honest, you kind of say that, but it actually doesn't really move along much more after that.
Okay.
It kind of I would say it plateaus a bit as they're just getting the group together and sorting them out, because I mean there's this whole kind of thing of coming up of, obviously it's a bit cliche and stuff. I mean, I did find the mum to be really annoying. I'm a little bit like a pushy parent, but a pushy parent not to be pushy, but then becoming really pushy about not being pushy. It was a bit so you're going to do all this extra stuff because your kid can't have what it wants, but you want to give everything to your kid because you're telling them that they can't. It was a little bit like, I'm not really sure like quite how it works.
Emilio Estevez's character even pointed that out, but it was kind of like she's getting on these other parents for being too you've got trainers at a 10-year-old game. It's like, people actually do that. But on the other hand, you're like, well, but now you're pushing your view of what hockey should be on them, and everyone's allowed to have their own view. I mean, obviously bringing 2 personal trainers for an 11-year-old might be a bit on the extreme end, but so is it's supposed to be fun and casual. And it's like, you got to have middle ground, because most people I think would also agree, winning is fun. It's not.
This is kind of something that comes up in a later episode of, there's not really a spoil. The first match, they get destroyed. You know that's going to happen, and they have to do that. They can't do that. And the kids turn around and say, losing isn't fun. This wasn't fun. They got their butts whooped, but they all get themselves back up and get back in and train and get a little bit better, which is, where you'd expect it to go. It was that kind of thing of going, because the second episode and third episode are a little bit shorter, by about 10 minutes. So I thought the pacing's quite good. I'm actually glad that they're taking their time, stretching it out a little bit, showing them doing the origin. Quite often with these kind of movies, they do the origin very quickly, the montage of them getting better. Now, I'm going to be honest. I will be very, very disappointed if they get to the end of this season and they beat the Mighty Ducks in the final. Because I don't want them to do that, because that's not a good message to send.
I actually agree with that. I was thinking that in the first episode, even halfway through, I was like, man, if they beat the Ducks at the end of the season, that's like you're throwing away all the hard work that the Ducks did. Yeah, they're jerks, especially the coach, but they are working legitimately hard. And if all it takes to win is we're playing for fun and and we can win the local champ, like, okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of in this thing of like, I mean, I am, I'm not a sports person, and when I played sports at school, I want to have fun. I'm not very competitive in this kind of thing. I mean, I play, tabletop games. If I don't win, but as long as I have fun taking part in, and it's like, you don't want necessarily a token measure. I mean, I've gone into these, gaming tournaments, and my goal is not to come last. That was my goal, and if I can, get somewhere in the middle, I'm very happy. Or even just get us point. That was always a nice thing. So I do come into it from that point of view of I don't have that super competitive mode in it. But at the same time, if you're going to be doing it in a competition, there has to be a little bit of it. They were in this line of, there is a whole thing in there in in one of the episodes about, she gives them all trophies, and that kind of thing of, and the son doesn't like that because it's like, no, that's not good. That's not good either. So they have to find the line. I think the kids that they've all kind of got their own stereotypes. They're very much stereotypical. For some reason, Nick, the podcaster, I don't know why, a mini Sean Austin. I mean, I think everyone is pointing that out. I mean, he not only does he look and sound so much like the guy from Goonies and Lord of the Rings, it's quite unremarkable, really, remarkable how that is. But I like him. He's like, it's kind of weird. I don't like Evan. I don't like the kid. I don't. He's a really hard. I don't really feel. I didn't connect with him at all. I connected with the other kids, not him.
Yeah, Evan's the main one, right? Yeah. And I don't even remember his name. At least from the first episode alone, he has such huge emotion shifts. I mean, he's a kid, so that's fairly accurate. But I'm just like, do you love the sport? Do you hate the sport? Do you want to play? Do you not want to play? Just make up your mind.
I think it was the stature of being, and when he lost all his friends, that was the thing that hit him harder, because he didn't have any, he lost everything with that. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, I think is it in episode 1 when he stands up and gets more people in the lunchtime.
Yeah, he does the whole speech in the lunchroom, and that's where they get the initial group of players. I have to admit, I kind of fast forward through parts of that because it's like, oh,
it was so corny.
Yeah,
and and when you see them all on the ice the first time and they can't even stand up, there's a kind of thing of going, I'm sorry, but this, they're going, this is in some way, this feels completely irresponsible to put these kids into a hockey game. Now, years ago, when I was out in Toronto or out in Canada, we ended up going to a local school team's hockey event. I don't know why. My coach guide said, do you want tickets? They're like $5 a piece. Never seen ice hockey like live. I was like, okay, let's go do that. Tronked down in -20 down to the local place and watched, and they're all smashing into each other and having, never seen it live before, and going, this is pretty brutal. It's only kids playing it, and obviously you play hockey anyway as a hobby. It just felt to me massive. It's like putting me on the ice and I'm going, right, now you're competing in a game on Friday. I'd be like, I can't even put two steps in front of each other. It would be irresponsible to do that. And there was that thing like, that's why, again, I didn't like the mum. It was like, why are this is not safe.
So this actually leads into one of my main complaints about the movie too, or the show, is that one of the points of the movie was, the team you were on was region based, right?
Yeah.
That was a whole plot thing in the movie. That seems to be gone now because they're just like, all right, just form your own team and grab whoever you can. Because of that, since you can apparently go on to various different teams, or you're not region locked, a lot of these sports, even at the kids level, will have different levels of play. And you'll have the top level play, which would be where the Ducks would be at, and it would be full contact, brutal, basically young adults beating the snot out of each other. There should also be another league for people who are like, I don't really want to get a concussion at 10. I just want to have fun playing, and that's where these kids should be. Now that becomes much more pronounced at adult level hockey.
Yeah.
I play with guys who are like 60 and like, I do not want to touch anybody. There is no checking in this at all. But in places where the sport's popular, and it's definitely popular in Minnesota, they would have the option to be like, no, we're going to play in a no checking league.
It's just like I said, it's just that kind of thing of, as someone that's not in this thing, there was a few moments where I'm going, this doesn't seem very, it's very much driven like we've got the story and we've got to get there and we've got to get to it and we're going to speed through it as fast as we can. And they go, this just, the common sense just went out the window. And so it's interesting to see where this series goes. As a couple of episodes go into it, it does get a little bit better, and they obviously get a little bit better. I really like Emilio Estevez as this. I can't get over how much he does look like his dad in this.
Oh my, yeah, I was going to make that point too. I mean, the scene is in the trailer, but when he gets down off the Zamboni at the beginning, I was like, is that Martin Sheen? What the heck? And he sounds so much like his dad. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's that. I mean, we've been watching him in something with Jane Foster on Netflix. My wife's been watching that. And this kind of thing of seeing him in that, and then it's like, he does look like it. And I liked the fact that he doesn't instantly, and it takes him a while, and it really does take a while before he starts coming around. He just wants their money, and it kind of breaks it, but they don't rush through him joining them, which is good, which I think is a massive, they needed to stretch that out, which they have done. And I think that was for the best. I think it would have been a mistake just to have him join in the first episode.
Yeah, and I actually, inverse of that, I appreciated that they did not spend a whole lot of time on no, you can't use the ice. You can't use the ice. You can't, and that becomes like a huge. It's like, no, we've got money. Oh, you have money. All right, let's do this. Yeah, no, I'm glad they didn't stick with that, but it also makes sense that he would not immediately be like, all right, I'm going to take on another ragtag group and watch them turn into Mighty Ducks 2.0 and have them ripped away from me by parents who want to play at too high a level. I did feel in the first episode they kind of overplayed how bitter he was, but they also needed to make the point. They needed to be like, no, he is not immediately jumping into this.
And it does take I'll be honest, it's even at the end of the third episode, he's not fully in yet. They really are stretched, and I like, they're playing up on it a lot. They're using that as one of the story motivations and it's that kind of feeling going, right, okay, so this is essentially a 10 episode one, and say half an hour a session, because the second and third episodes are a little bit shorter than the first one. You're still looking probably about 4 to 5 hours, which is essentially like 2 of the movies. So it needs a little bit more story to kind of stretch it out a little bit. And in some ways that works a lot better. I think it allows you not to do the whole montage, the whole kind of, the sport movie, I was just thinking of South Park with that one, but or Team America, where, you don't have to have everything go through really fast because they're training. Do it a bit slower. They can take their time over it. And obviously they're building up the kids and all the rest of it. And so it'll be a few more weeks before I get to watch a new episode, but it's definitely, I do think it's gonna be hard in some ways to try. I'm looking at like all 3 episodes and I can't really distinguish in my mind where they ended and where they started, because there's all just they roll into each other.
Which is honestly how it should be with a show like this. You shouldn't be able to go, oh, episode 1 ended at this specific. I mean, you can do it with that one because that's the end of. They get introduced as a team and they're in the league, so that makes sense. But after that point, it really should just be, nope. We're building towards the season finale, where they get their just completely destroyed by the Ducks in the championship.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's that kind of thing of like with 10 episodes, there's a long, where I've only seen essentially a third of it. So it could go absolutely anywhere. And they're kind of looking at going, they really have to go do quite a bit. A lot of it as well, like, with the pushy parents, with the parents at work and all the rest of it. I just loved the whole idea of her, like going to a boss and kind of going, yeah, can I get these afternoons off from this plot? It's like, you wouldn't be able to do that, especially if you've just dumped on them. Why would they let you do it? It was just a bit like, there's some things here like and she's very open about the fact, well, every time I was at the thing, I just kind of, I was working or asleep. Like, so how is she gonna put this team together? She never put the
Yeah.
effort into now.
Yeah, and not only did she have her whole tirade where she, uh, pointed out all the things that she thinks are wrong with them, they didn't like her to begin with.
Yeah.
They there was already that feeling of, well, her kid's not that important on the team anyway, so we'll dump the work on her so I can go off and watch the Mighty Ducks instead. And then the whole cheese puff thing, which was a little weird, but I get it.
Yeah, I think the trouble is it's very much in that sort of soccer mum kind of territory of like, all trying to outdo each other and stuff.
Soccer moms are vicious. I mean, absolutely vicious. Part of me wanted to be like, oh, they're hamming it up, and then the other part's like, no, I actually know people like this.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, I be honest, like I said, I did enjoy them. I did enjoy the show. I'm going to be interested to see where it goes. It's a lot better than I was expecting. It's kind of funny as well because it's like my mom. I think I said something to my mum about it. And she's like, "Oh, Mighty Ducks, I like that movie." And I'm going, "Did we watch that as a kid?" She goes, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Well, I don't even remember it because it had no impact on me as a kid."
What, you didn't immediately go out and buy hockey skates, $900 hockey skates? And,
well, the
and then
thing is I do remember with my brother he was full into skateboarding and also rollerblades, and we would go from shop to shop, and he would be taken to the all the skating parks. So I couldn't even go in a straight line. So I think it might be more my brother that was the lover.
Actually, that reminded me, I did want to point out one other thing, which I think is a bit more hilarious if you've actually encountered it in real life. It doesn't have to be hockey, but they meet that kid from Toronto. And he's like, oh my God, he's got like $900 skates and his equipment's top of the line. It's going to be amazing. And he gets on the ice and he literally just immediately falls over. I'm just like, I have played with that person. When I was in Virginia, I actually played with someone who was very wealthy. Like they were on they're the CEO of a company that most people would have heard of. And it's like, and he kitted himself out. He kitted his entire team out, and like with the best equipment. He himself wasn't that great, but he had a great personality. He was so much fun to play with. But I was just like, you can spend a lot, but you still got to do the fundamentals.
Well, it's that kind of thing, isn't it? Of like anything, you can go buy any piece of equipment, and if you haven't got you haven't got to worry about the money, you will just go naturally and just pick the top of the range. And
why not?
You go online. Best skates, I love them, and that's kind of, it's that kind of thing of how you do it, but yeah, I overall, I did enjoy it. I mean, I did find the whole thing with the gamer kid.
That was a bit much.
Yeah, it was a bit like, really? It's like, because that kind of thing. I'm sliding between him and Nick at the minute of like my level. And actually, if you put me on the ice, I'm probably a bit more like the guy with the hair. The combination of all of them, I can look at them all and go, yeah, that would be me. It's like, I can't skate, I can't play games.
So the one with the gamer, the thing that got me was like they fell back on the cliche of like, there's this amazing gamer, he dominates us in the game, and he lives right up the street, even though we're playing on a worldwide network. And it's like, seriously, I get that it's a trope, and they needed to have somebody who they could bring in who'd be the unlikely goalie. But it's like,
there is a thing that comes up, and it's kind of funny where he is in goalie, and all he's actually doing is pressing the buttons with his thumb.
Oh,
because he's like he just stands there because he's like, he can see what's happening, but doesn't react like physically.
Okay, well, no, I am looking forward to their first game. It'll be entertaining, I'm sure.
I think that there's another game in, I think, episode 3. But again, I really enjoyed the series. It's definitely, like if in a tiered system. I mean, it's definitely like below like the Marvel and the stuff, but it's a good one. It's it'll be much higher in my top 10 originals now, which is good. I think it'll be in the. I think it will be in the top 10.
I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. I'm looking forward to the cameos that they dropped knowledge about. Foggy at the very least, but they've also got several others. One final point, I also appreciated that Estevez was eating cake through most of the episode. That was such a big thing in the first movie with the kid being like cake eater. It's an insult in Minnesota, and I just loved he was eating cake the entire time.
Why is it?
It's a the people in the upper part of town would be the cake eaters, and then the people it's a class thing, but it was it wasn't, it was the way that these kids in the first movie were like, oh, we don't need that preppy player, who's played his entire life and has the best equipment, cake eater, and it's just, yeah. And not even, and Amelia's not even eating good cake. He's eating leftover cake from a kid's birthday party.
Yeah, I think it helps. To me, it was more about like money. That was the thing. If he's that short of money, he's literally stealing kids' leftovers.
Oh, it works on
and every week, there's leftover cake.
It works on multiple levels.
Yeah. Right. So let's now move over onto the Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 2. We'll be honest, we're going to be going in full spoilers, but I'm really feeling with this series so far that it kind of feels a little bit like, it's like spoilers is such a hard thing to say for this episode, because I don't get to the end of it and go, oh, this is spoiling, or this is spoiling. Like, we probably could have told all of that from the trailer. There wasn't really anything in here that I would necessarily count, but we will be doing a full open discussion about it. But what did you think of episode 2?
Actually, I'm going to throw this back at you, but I have a specific question in mind. As someone who has not read most of the comics, what is your impression of John Walker?
Well, this is the thing because I haven't got around to it yet, but I have nearly started reading those comics. But he's a jack. He's a complete. I did like the origin story that they gave him about setting him up as he's a hero. He is well established, but he's over the top. He's very, he's a bit of a jackass. He knows he's good and he knows he's doing it, and he's playing the part, but a little bit more. There's no humbleness. He's not humble. He's not like, whereas Steve Rogers had that aspect of it, he doesn't have that thing. He knows what he's doing. He's playing the part, and you could see that frustration in him when he wanted to get in and like compete, and do it properly and get on with it, and the frustration that he lost that fight. There's a little bit at the end where he's a bit of jackass to Bucky and also Sam, but also you can look at it the other way. They were a bit. They aren't very nice to him either. So, as someone, I haven't read the comics, but I have been looking this week at what ones to read. I've been reading a load of other comics, mainly some of the Falcon ones, and because now it's like I just got into the Marvel Unlimited because I felt like having not read comics for a few years. I always drifted in and out a bit, but it was a bit like there was so much stuff from WandaVision I felt like I was missing out on by not having a little bit of back history. But I know that because we were having this discussion in our Facebook group of US, he is ultimately US agent is a hero. Yeah, he has the odd moment where I think he does become the villain or he's a bit of an anti-hero, but he's generally always a hero, but just a bit of a jackass. Yeah, so I think a lot of people are expecting to do a full heel turn and be the full bad guy. And I'm a bit like, oh, they might not fully do this. And I know obviously you know him a lot more from the comic, but what
he might be a temporary villain. Like he snaps and he loses it and the pressure gets to him, something like that. That I could certainly see an angle.
I think that's when he's going to take the super soldier serum to get some kills.
And he will have some side effects from that. Yeah. But yeah, he is normally a hero. He's just the hero that you don't really like that much because it's my way or the highway. There's none of that compromise. Honestly, he's probably a much better representation of America than Captain America is. But yeah, he's more of the hero. You're like, all right, I'll accept your help, but just don't talk. Just do your job and stay out of the way.
See, I do think that this is where the comic book readers aren't looking at him and going, whereas I think a lot of people are looking at him going, like people are, oh, he's going to turn bad, and because of the way he acts, like, you're instantly putting the cliche of what everyone's expecting him to become, a villain at some point, and he might do that, but I am aware that he does turn into US agent. And at some point, we know from some of the toy leaks, Falcon is going. I've been reading All New Captain America this past week, where Falcon he is Captain America and he's learning to. So I am aware that how he's going to look and what he's going to do and where they're going with this. So I do think like there's where they're going to do, how they're going to get there. The main thing to me is John Walker's going to have to come up and then come back down again to pass the mantle to Falcon. He has to have an up and a down, but he doesn't necessarily going to be a full. I mean, a lot of people are that maybe aren't aware of who US Agent is, are expecting just a quite a simple, like he's going to become a bad guy and that's the end of it.
I think there is going to be a fight. I think there will be a fight between him and Bucky and Falcon, and it might be over ownership of the Shield, or it might just be they're on a mission and he's got his objectives and they've got their objectives, and they don't and they're not compatible. But it's not going to be as you say, a full heel turn. It's going to be our interests do not align at this moment, and whoever wins gets to follow their interests. But then after that, we'll go back to being, if not allies, at least recognizing we're on the same team kind of deal.
Yeah. I think there's I said, I can see it already in our Facebook group. It's like you got like the Marvel like diehards that know what's going on are looking at it this way, and then you got everybody like that isn't aware of him and just is used to the MCU kind of going down this line, and they might not necessarily see this way this the way that they're going. And generally the MCU tends to keep things quite simple, but I was watching and going, I think they did a better job of portraying him as a hero, Battlestar. He's a psychic. He works for the US government. And we don't. I'm guessing at some point he's going to get some super. He's going to take a serum as well at some point.
Probably. The comic book version of Battlestar is actually pretty obscure. He's only appeared in a handful of things to begin with, but he does have probably Bucky level super enhancements. So he's not as strong as Captain America, but he is stronger than your average person.
I mean, they might end up throwing him to the wolves at some point just to kind of move the story along. But so I am looking for that information and reading profiles and trying to I didn't know who Battlestar was until Friday. It was like I then went in and going like, who is he? I need to know this kind of for my own and do a little bit more research into who he is, because I'd never heard of him before.
I think even among comic readers, he's a bit of a deep cut. I was familiar with the name, but I don't think I've ever actually read a comic with him in it. And I actually had to go and look him up and be like, is this who I think it is? Oh, it's actually not who I think it is, but I'm vaguely aware of them.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm liking, I think what I like about this whole thing with bringing him in is it actually feels like a natural way of pushing this whole thing of Falcon becoming captain. Because in the comic books, didn't that happen? It did kind of go in that order where John Walker got it first, and then Steve Rogers came back, and then Falcon got it. And it wasn't I mean, they're obviously doing it a little bit different to how the comic book did it, because they do that all the time anyway. But I actually think it's much better that he's not just past the Shield and then becomes Falcon. I think he needs his own origin story.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense that you look at the legacy of Captain America and go, yeah, I can't live up to this. I may be an Avenger. I may have done all sorts of amazing things. I fought Thanos, but man, that's Captain America. It's
right. And then this is where this series is going somewhere, which I wasn't necessarily thinking. I think me being, again, knowledgeable enough for comic books that I knew that Falcon is going to become the Captain America. But here's the world already for Falcon as the Captain America. So therefore, this is about setting the tone about him. He is the right person to be it, because I mean the whole racial undertones of him when he's with was it Isaiah, and then obviously they've got his grandson, which is going to become the Patriot and the Young Event. I'm getting that.
You're starting to pull them in. I'm glad they had Isaiah in there. It's
And again, as a Marvel fan, I knew who he was the second they did it. I know who that is. I know it's the Patriot. I've had action figures and stuff of him, so I know who he is. And there again, my it comes in through comics, video games, action, because he's in Marvel Rising, the cartoon as well. Patriot's in that. So I am. This is where that kind of feeds into one another, and it helps kind of set this all up. And they're obviously leading, and it could be years away before he does anything, but that whole story was great. I really enjoyed them kind of going down this line. But what got me was the bit when they were right outside afterwards and the cops surrounded them and instantly thought, Sam was doing up to no good. doing something to Bucky. That whole kind of, I mean, they really, I mean, we said about it with the bank stuff, but this time it really was like, no, they are fully going in on the, I mean, they ended up putting a warning on the actual episode that this is about, recent things. I'm thinking this is great. This is changing the tone of this whole series that I wasn't expecting going into it.
In a way, it's kind of like how Winter Soldier changed the expectation in Marvel movies, because prior to that, they were all basic superhero movies. They had their formula and they stuck to it. And then Winter Soldier was like, no, we're going to throw some politics in here too. Yeah, I mean, it's the surface level politics. We're not going to deep dive into it, but we're going to reference it, and there might be parts of this that'll make you feel uncomfortable. And now Falcon and the Winter Soldier's like, we're gonna hit some topics that people might not want to discuss.
And also, people are not expecting. I mean, there was a lot of people saying there was a lot of swearing in there. There was a lot more. It's a much higher tone of what they're doing, and I loved it. I mean, I got it ended. Well, obviously, with Zemo coming up at the end. I mean, we knew he was coming into it because he was in the posters, but it was like, oh, I'd forgot I was watching a TV series, because some people said, oh, it feels more like a TV series than one. I went, no, I was fully just in the zone, and then it ended. I went, oh, I forgot I just could have easily gone on because I was totally in the zone. And I'm really enjoying this series much more than WandaVision. It's a bit more I love the whole wandering aspect and where's it going and what's it doing. I fully got caught. I love WandaVision, but there's something about this series which I'm just loving more. I'm loving the fact they're getting time to shine. These characters again, kind of just never would have done on the screen, on the big screen.
Yeah, they're getting a chance to learn who these characters are, and they are taking advantage of it. They are spending time doing things that you would not get to do in a movie. Like, as fun as the therapy scene was, probably it would have been a quarter as long in a movie, and you would really not have done it. They might not have done it at all.
I don't think they would have done the whole therapy situation. But it's like that whole builds on this whole buddy cop thing that they were doing. I mean, the whole thing of obviously them underneath the truck and then the bouncing and rolling on top of each other and stuff, and playing up on this whole idea of them being, that like you said, Turner and Hooch, not the Turner and Hooch, Tango and Cash, that kind of thing of the buddy cop. You think of like, Beverly Hills 9, all those kind of classic buddy cop movies. They're kind of pulling in on them. They hate each other, but they get on with it, and they probably are going to become closer together as a team because of it. But I mean, apparently all of this has happened because essentially they did a couple of scenes together in Falcon in like the movies that they weren't expecting them to kind of, and they ad-libbed a bit. And
I mean I mean, that scene in Civil War where they're in the VW bug and he's like, can you move your seat forward? No. It was such a great scene. It's so small, it's so short, but it's like, oh,
that made the entire series happen. Essentially, I think that's what, I mean, even they've joked about how the whole series came about because of their relationship from like that one scene.
I love that scene. It was perfect deadpan comedy.
Yeah. And I'm just really, I mean, I'm really liking knowing more about Bucky. Because it's that weird thing of like, we've seen him in so many movies. Same thing with Falcon, but it feels like I've got to know them so much more in 2 episodes than we have in all of the movies combined. Because they've gone from just being one-dimensional characters.
Yeah, and we brought this up last week and also in our Winter Soldier retro review, that after the Winter Soldier, they really did not have any backstory. They did not have any updates to their personality or character. Bucky had a little bit, but most of it was just coming out of the fog, remembering who he was rather than being the mindless assassin. And this really gives him a chance to build on that. And I'm hoping that we'll get a couple other characters in the same vein.
I mean, just hearing about his history with, where he's like basically had his arm ripped off, and like, they had a history before it. And, it was very, I just wasn't expecting it. I mean, I knew he was going to be, I knew, the original Captain America was going to be in there because I'd heard reports of him being in there, but it kind of, to me, I wasn't expecting it yet, and I totally forgot it. There's the other thing of the villains. these what are they, the flag smashers?
So you've got the Flag Smashers, you've got the Power Broker, and you've got Zemo now.
Right, so the Power Broker, because it keeps getting brought up, and I know he's a big part of it because of where the story's going in terms of the comic books. But I'm like, well, who is he? It wasn't really until like them running away from him in the plane that suddenly redawned on me that they've got a problem with somebody else. Because did they even reference him as the? Yeah,
sorry,
the Power.
I had a blip there.
Yeah.
Someone, I think one of them mentions like we have to get out of here. The Power Broker knows where we're at, something like that. And there was the text message that the woman received while they were in the safe house. You took what's mine, that kind of thing. I'll be very interested to see how they're going to go with the Power Broker. It'll be a fun angle to approach.
Because isn't he guy that ends up giving in the comic books gave the US agent his powers and
there's a number of different directions that they can go with this, including US agent either receiving his powers or essentially stealing them, possibly by stealing some of the whatever super serum they used on these other people.
Because I'm wondering if it's like in Jessica Jones, where she has the inhaler, where she gets like a superpower. There's that whole, because I know that's the whole thing with Patriot, isn't it? Where he ends up having problems with that situation.
Right. In the comics, Patriot will take the serum so that he gets the Captain America powers and can follow in Isaiah's footsteps, but he gets a lot of side effects. Eventually, they give him a proper serum, but like I said, there's a lot of different directions they can go with the Power Broker because he's not as very well known a character, and in fact, they could go with a version of the character who's nothing like the comics if they wanted to. They could really pull it was blank all along, and as long as it's not Agatha. So
and I mean, just seeing how the Suicide Squad has brought in a massive, great big starfish that can do telekinesis and take over people. I mean, it's going to be nowhere near that level of bizarreness.
I would hope not.
No, but I'm liking where they're going with it. I also like the fact that they've established the flag smashers. They're not completely bad. They've got a little bit of their idea of the fact of we've all been forgotten since everyone's come back. What about us that were left behind? We've all had to do. And we didn't have to worry about. And it's like, okay, you all had maybe. For some, there's always that thing of every time it rains, an umbrella company makes money. There's always somebody that makes money or gets a better life when something happens. We've seen it with COVID. Some businesses take more and some people enjoy it more. There is that thing of, so I like the aspect that they're not fully, they are the villains, but they're not completely villains.
Yeah, you can see their angle on it. And even ignoring things like COVID, there are always going to be people who say, oh, well, all the attention, all the good stuff is being given to these people over here. Where's my slice of the cake? Where are my benefits? And whether rightly or wrongly, there will always be that impression. And these are the people who are sitting there going, well, my life's important too. Why are we worried about these people?
Yeah. Again, it was a very great episode. I really enjoyed it. Very much kind of looking at this and going, this is good. This is exactly what we want. This is what we should be, it's where it's that kind of feeling of, in some ways, I still feel like if we'd had that extra few weeks between WandaVision, I think so many people are kind of comparing. I mean, especially with WandaVision, those last few weeks where the who did it, what is going on, what we haven't really got that at the same level. But I mean, we can. But I feel like I'm only being able to do that again because of comic books, and I think that's what the WandaVision fans are going off on tangents, bringing in ideas. And I don't feel like the same way with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where it's quite a little bit more simplified.
Yeah, and I mean, the entire idea of WandaVision is you're supposed to be what's going on. Can you trust what you see? Someone's manipulating things, et cetera, et cetera. So you can go off and do your wild theory. It's Mephisto, it's Nightmare, it's whomever. This one, it's much more like, oh yeah, who's the power broker? Oh, I guess that's the power broker.
Well, it's like the same thing, like I said, with US Agent, of like, where is he going? How are they doing this? Where is it going to go? And US Agent has been a superhero that's been around for decades. And they're obviously setting up, Patriot, because, we're moving on to a era where Chris Evans is not Captain America. So they're going to have US Agent running around, Patriot, and Sam as the new Captain America. And, we're going to have this for years. And I think feels like this is just a perfect way of like telling his story and getting people ready for it.
Yeah, and hopefully they do reference it in the movies going forward. Hopefully it won't just be, oh, Sam's got the shield because Captain America gave him the shield at the end of Endgame. That they'll actually be like, no, we had an adventure with Bucky and whoever else shows up. Obviously, you don't have to go into details. You don't have to sit there and have Sam being like, so this were the adventures I had, and then we pass the torch over to Wanda, and she's like, well, those were your adventures. Let me tell you about my adventures. But subtle nods to it as the movies go forward would be nice.
Well, I think as well as like Falcon can just turn up as Captain America whenever he's needed and do cameo, but you can definitely feel that the young Avengers are starting to creep in already. We've had Wiccan. Was it Wiccan?
Wiccan and Speed in WandaVision. Speed, that's such a great name. And Patriot here.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have Miss Marvel, and then we're gonna have Hawkeye or Kate Bishop. And who else have we got? So those are the main ones kind of coming into it. And
so the one they're missing is Hulkling and Iron Lad. So you can tell where you can tell. So
they could do. They might go with Ironheart instead. They might adjust that one.
Right, and Miss Marvel's not actually an original Young Avengers member, but I could totally see them bringing her in as maybe like the leader or the sub leader of the group.
Yeah. So I definitely, that's all starting to build up, which is nice. I mean, that could be years away from when we see all this. It's just nice seeing everything interconnected. What we've never had with these TV series before, where, I think that is the big difference of them being the characters that we've seen in the movies. I think it does have that different. You have so much more of a connection to them when this happens, and Zemo turns up. And this is a sequel to Civil War.
This is absolutely straight up. We are continuing the story that we started with Winter Soldier and continued into Civil War. And sure, things have happened in between, but we're picking right up.
Yeah, like I said, a fantastic episode. Loving it. Definitely a highlight every Friday morning right now of when this one goes up. But let us know in the comments below what you think of Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 2. Love to hear your thoughts and your theories. Are we right? Are we on the wrong path? Let us know. As per usual, guys, go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe. Again, a huge thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and YouTube channel members. And we shall see you guys in another episode. Later.